All right, welcome. It's good to be live on stream. My name is Chris W. Morris. I am an educator. I'm a teacher math. I've taught public school, private school, homeschool. I currently run my own tutoring and teaching company called morrismodel.com, where I work with kids one on one, and we stream in and just get to kids. We get straight to kids, and we try to teach them in a way that works for them. It's my job. It's your job, teachers, to really acclimate yourself to the needs of the child. Every single kid is different, they're diverse, they're interesting, and the way you approach one child is going to be completely different than the way you got to teach another kid. One kid is really outgoing and he likes to laugh and he likes jokes and he likes my energy. Another kid, you got to slow down a little bit. So the purpose of this channel is to come alongside teachers. Doesn't matter if you're in public school, doesn't matter if you're in private school, if you do one-on-one tutoring, if you're a homeschool parent who's trying to reach your child, you need encouragement, and we need to share victories and challenges and everything in between. And it really takes a village. And so the purpose of this channel, we're trying to change the educational landscape through love. And I always want to ask and come back to that question: what's the loving thing to do by this child? What's the loving thing to do by this student in your classroom, teacher? And how do you approach that kid? So today's topic, we're going to get right into something that hopefully you can all identify with, probably if you've been a teacher for any number of time. It's how do I teach an angry kid? How do I teach an angry child who clearly has a chip on their shoulder, who maybe can easily blow up and start fights and problems in your class, and you got a million things to do, right? Plus, you got 25 other kids who have a variety of issues in your classroom, and you're like, what are you going to do? I can't handle this. This is too much. It's 1 against 30. I get it. Okay, I worked in one of the most diverse poverty-stricken schools in my county. I'm from Tennessee, and I want to share a little bit about some things that I've gone through and some things that the Lord has taught me about how to reapproach how I teach and really get my eyes off me. It sounds cliche, but get my eyes off me and onto the kid and know and figuring out what I got to do by that kid. The key really to everything is to quit thinking about yourself. I know it's hard because, this is our natural bend. But when I don't think about myself, I don't tend to think about my problems. And when I'm not thinking about my problems, I'm not suffering as much. It's more fun to teach. And that's what I want to point you guys to. So let's talk about this. How do you teach an angry child? Okay. You've probably been there. If you've been in public education, you're probably there right now, and you're going to be there for the next few hours because you got first, second, third period, and you got a kid with an anger issue, and probably every single one, maybe 5 angry kids or 10 angry kids in each question, right? So we're going to talk about how we can do it one at a time. I'm going to share a story with you guys, and maybe this will make some sense from my own experience. So I got into public education kind of a roundabout way. I didn't traditionally study for it, but God kind of equipped me, and I got into it later. And so I found myself in a very challenging environment. I had gang members. I had kids who were, hadn't seen their dad or their mom in weeks, and were living with somebody and lying about it to the district. And we had all kinds of dysfunction, right? And so it was hard. I came from a very, mom and dad in the house, very structured. We did our homework. We, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And so when I was in this environment, I mean, it was completely opposite of my experience coming up through high school. Yet I was supposed to make a difference and get these kids to perform at proficiency levels, or, math department. If you know what I'm talking about, you know how it is in the district. So I'm dealing with this kid, and I want to tell you about a kid. I'm going to call him Manuel. Okay. Manuel was a particularly troubled child who was in my third block period during this time in my career. He was beyond a problem child. I mean, this kid had a chip on his shoulder. I mean, when he walked around, it was like being on eggshells, and you never knew when he was going to blow up on you if you're the teacher, or if he was going to blow up on one of his fellow students in the classroom, because he was just like a bomb ready to go off, right? So Manuel, I didn't know what to do with him for the longest time. It was probably like 3 or 4 months into the school year, and I had to send him out to ISS and send him to the principal almost on a daily occurrence, right? And so it was around this time I started being challenged by the Lord. Is my faith, Jesus Christ is where I'm at, by the way. And so I felt like he was telling me I was the problem, and I need to really start thinking more about the kids and putting more of myself into my work. And so I started thinking about this kid Manuel, and so he came into class. Sure enough, he was angry. He didn't want to talk. He was standoffish to his classmates. He was very short in his responses if you asked him to do something or to answer a question. Anyway, they were pushing us in the district. Anybody who's been in public school knows this, to do more group work, right? They wanted me to actually lecture less and give them problems to do and have them work in groups of 4 and have them work together and problem solve like they were like, I don't know, seasoned professionals in a company. And they weren't really ready for that, in my opinion, yet. But that's what they wanted us to do, right? So I was all about, okay, I got to do group work today. So that was the deal, right? You need to sit in groups today. I told Manuel, I said, Manuel, why don't you go sit over in this side of the section? We got three other students who we've already set up their desks to be, right next to where you are, and we're going to do some group work. And he immediately defied me. I'm working in no groups today, Mr. Morris. And I was like, well, Manuel, it's not really an option. I didn't ask you to do it. I mean, this is what we're doing. We're doing group work. He goes, I don't mean no disrespect, but I ain't working with no, I'm in a mood today. Somebody already pissed me off in first block. And I'm just telling you right now, I'm not working in no group today, you know? So I kind of had been there, done that with Manuel, wasn't sure how to handle it. He was openly defying what I was telling him to do in front of the whole class of 25 to 30 other kids. So my approach at that time, I was finally learning. I said, just get out. Now, I don't know if you can do that at your school, but that's what I did. I said, get out, get in the hallway. I'm going to come talk to you in about 5 minutes. But you openly defied what I said to do. You need to get out in the hallway. I'll come talk to you in a minute. So he got up, sulked, probably slammed his book down on the way out, angry, goes out in the hallway for about 5 minutes. I'm finishing up what I'm instructing the kids to do. Here, you're going to work on this problem. We're going to do that 15 minutes. I want everyone participating, blah, blah, blah. Then I go out into the hallway to talk to Mr. Manuel. So I close the door. I talk to Manuel, and he immediately kind of almost takes the bull by the horns, and he says, "Mr. Morris, look, I don't mean no disrespect. I'm just mad. I'm angry. Something happened in my first period, and this teacher already threw me out. I got in-school suspension, and I'm just mad. If you work, I don't mean no disrespect, but I'm going to get in a fight, basically, if you make me get in groups." He didn't say that in exact words, but that's basically what he was saying. So the old me would have been like, "Nope, I'm the teacher. I have authority, and you have to do what I say, no matter what." And I wouldn't really see the nuance of it. Everything was more black and white. That was how I used to be my first 3 years in the classroom, and that didn't work out. So I knew that wasn't going to work. And so I listened to him, and I really realized after stepping back, yes, he's being defiant. Yes, he's being insubordinate, not doing what I told him to do. But knowing him and my experience with him, and he was actually, when I thought about it, showing some level of respect because he said to me, "I don't mean any disrespect." He also was was aware of himself. He was expressing some self awareness because he knew when I'm in this mood, I'm probably going to blow up on somebody, and it's not going to be pretty. And so he was actually taking the initiative to not put himself in that position. I realized this, thank God, after lots of failing and not realizing these dynamics for 3 or 4 years. And so I remember it was the first time I felt like the Lord gave me grace to handle the situation differently than I had in the past. And so I told Manuel, so, okay, listen to me. I said, I need you to stay out in the hallway for another 5 to 10 minutes, okay? And I need you to make it look good. After 5 to 10 minutes, I want you to come back into the classroom, join your classmates, maybe sit over in the corner, but look really upset. Look like I just chewed you out. Okay. Look like you're going to be in suspension for multiple days and you just got the hammer dropped on you. I need you to make it look good. If you can do that, I'll leave you alone for the day. That's what I told him. So as soon as I said that, he went, "Oh, I can do that, Mr. Morris." That's kind of how he said it. I was like, good. Okay. So we have an understanding. So sure enough, that's what I told him. I said, make it look good. So I come into the classroom after spending some time, maybe 5 to 6 minutes, talking to him in the hallway. And sure enough, all the kids are like, "Oh, man, I bet Manuel got it. Yeah, Mr. Morris probably chewed him out, And I'm like, okay, don't worry about Manuel. He's already been dealt with. We're doing this, blah, blah, blah. So true to form, according to our deal, about 5 to 10 minutes later, Manuel comes in, and he should have won an Oscar award, frankly, for how he performed. I mean, he came in, he still had that little angry vibe coming off of him, and he looked really upset, and he sat down really upset, and then he kind of gave me a look, and I knew it was on. We were acting for the kids, and it was hilarious. The kids were all like, "Oh man, Mr. Morris, I bet you got nailed." But he helped me out because I still had the respect and the rapport from the rest of the class, so I didn't lose them. And so that's important, as a teacher in public school. But he felt kind of honored in a way, right? And so that's kind of one of the things I wanted to point out through expressing this video. I found like you got to look for ways to honor the child. Maybe they're defying you, but maybe they're doing it for good reasons. Show them a little respect, honor what effort they are trying to make to do the right thing, to get ahead of the situation before they completely turn into, what they're capable of turning into, and honor them in that way. What happens is you almost earn the right to say more tough, important things to them in the future. And it actually helps you establish I don't know, some leverage in your relationship with that kid and actually establish a little bit of a trust there and know, like, and trust there. So I was just beginning to realize this. Anyway, class went pretty smoothly. In fact, by the end of that class, to my surprise, he actually kind of got over himself and ended up joining in the group activity at the end of class anyway. So we just had to give him a little bit of room, a little bit of grace to blow some steam off and not nail him like everybody else had been doing at that school, including other teachers. And it actually paid off. And, you know, from that point forward, I realized I had this ability to kind of walk him off the edge of a cliff going forward after that exchange. Okay. So we want to talk about just maybe 4 takeaways about how we can handle kids who have anger issues, or how do I deal with this angry child who's just blown up on me or cussing me out for very little things. You know, a lot of these kids are going and have trauma. I once heard somebody say, hurting kids hurt people, or hurting people hurt people. It's just true. I said that too quick. Hurting people hurt people. It's just a fact. If you've been wounded, abused, if you have something going on at home and you're just raw and you want to protect yourself, you tend to lash out at others, even if they're not, you know, deserving of it, as a way to get ahead of things and protect you. And so this is often, almost always, the case with kids. In my book, Changing the Educational Landscape, it's called Class Act, Changing the Educational Landscape Through Love. In my book, in chapter 11, we have a chapter titled Making a Difference. And at the very back of that chapter, there are 4 takeaways. The first one I wanted to mention, and then I'm going to get back to the story and tell you what happened with this kid. It was amazing. But as you know, you want to be a student of your students. You want to know them, and you need to think about who this unique person who's never walked the face of the planet and never will again is, because some kids have anger issues. Some kids might have just a lack of love in their environment, where you would assume they've been loved by their family like the way you were, and they really haven't. And so that's kind of leading to dysfunctional behavior. And honestly, to teach better, you're gonna have to know kids better. To love people, you have to know better. So these are the things that I had to learn through a lot of pain and suffering, frankly. But I want to just kind of get ahead of the curve and let other people know. Maybe you're a new teacher and you're feeling like you're drowning, and it's your first 3 years and you're just so inundated with stuff. You don't even know where to focus your bearings. Focus it on the kids and really establish that relationship. It will pay off. When the kid likes you, the parent will like you. When the parent likes you, the administrators will like you, because they're not getting fussed out by parents all the time. And when that's the case, you have a lot more leeway at your job, and you got more grace, and you got more job security too. I mean, it just gets better. So you got to start with the kid. All right. So anyway, that's what happened, that first little exchange. Well, at the time, I had started incorporating this idea that ended up being a better idea than I thought. I called it the Morrissey Awards. My last name is Morris. My name's Chris Morris. And so I wanted to bring, I don't know, like the Oscars into my classroom, the Grammys, the ESPYs. I was like, everybody likes these things. They either want to win, or at least we want to watch and see who won, right? So I thought maybe we could bring that into education. And so I came up with something called the Math Morrissey Awards, because I, teach math, and that was my name. And the kids, to my surprise, ate it up. It was literally just certificates that I would put little personal little things on and tell them, I'd theme it or things like that. So I'd already decided, after he calmed down and he eventually did do what I asked them to do, Manuel, that I would give him one of my Math Morrissey Awards. So we called it the Cool Headed Morrissey Award. And in fact, it didn't cost much. It was like $5. I found a stress ball, those old school stress balls that you can kind of clench and squeeze. And I found it at the mall that weekend. And I said, okay, I'm going to give him the Cool Headed Morrissey Award, and I'm going to give him a stress ball as a reward. And I'm going to tell them it's for showing self-control and at least having the maturity to tell their teacher that they were in a mood that day. And so instead of letting me just be surprised by it, right? I was like, I'm going to do that and see how that goes. So we put together this award. They were always really fun to do. And we'd theme it, and I'd say for outstanding self-control. And then I would really encourage teachers, if they do anything like that, be specific about why they won. You don't have to give them some award for being a GPA salutatorian, valedictorian if they are like a D student, but you can say what the award's for. And so I told them it's for exhibiting self-control. Last week you did this when you usually do that, right? If you keep doing this, then this is the kind of person you're going to become, and these are the kind of opportunities you're going to be able to have. And so it really connects action to good things in their mind, and really, really just changes the game for you. And so we gave him the Cool Headed Morrissey Award the next week, and I would play music. We'd make it fun, and the kids really wanted to know who was going to win a Morrissey each week. And so it was hilarious, because you kind of almost trained without realizing, the kids didn't realize it. You almost trained the whole class to be on the best behavior, to give you the best version of themselves, because they're all like, I could win. All I have to do is be a slightly better version of me, like maybe I take 3 naps a week in class. If I just take 2 naps, I might win the Stay Awake Morrissey Award. And so I would tailor it depending on that kid's issue. And I felt like the Lord was leading me on that, and it was just changing everything. I made a really rough situation become kind of a very fun situation, and I was able to make an influence where before I was just feeling like I was getting swallowed. Anyway, so we're doing the Morrissey Award, right? The what I say, the cool headed Morrissey Award goes to Manuel, and I said, hey man, next time you kind of feel like you're in a mood and you're about to punch somebody, instead, maybe punch this thing instead or squeeze it. And I tossed him the what do you call it, the stress ball, and he started laughing so hard. The most I've ever seen him laugh. In fact, it may have been the first time I saw him laugh in class the entire year. We're like 5 months into the school year, 4 or 5 months, something like that. And so it kind of became this thing, like in the classroom, when he would start acting kind of the way he was, and he'd get a little snippy with people or whatever, it wouldn't be uncommon for another student to be like, hey man, well, you need to chill out. Go ahead and get that stress ball out of yours. And every time people would reference the stress ball, he would start laughing, and it would kind of diffuse the anger and the tension and that angry undercurrent that would be there, prior, and everything would be up, carefree, and everyone was comfortable with each other. And it became like this different kind of vibe. In fact, the other students would encourage Manuel, hey, be cool headed, get this crunch ball out. Hey, do you need a minute? You need to go outside. It became kind of this jokey kind of thing. But unbeknownst to me, through doing this, the Lord really was creating a safe place in my classroom for kids like Manuel. Maybe they got in trouble in three other classes, in science class, or in English, with a teacher who didn't understand why the kid was acting or treating them badly. All of a sudden, he would be able to talk to me and eventually come to me if there was an issue, and I didn't even realize this was happening, but it was happening. And it started, I think, with handling the situation the way I ended up being able to handle it. This isn't to toot my own horn. I failed miserably for 4 years. It wasn't really till I started doing things the Lord's way and getting other kids on my mind that I was able to start thinking about it in that vein, if that makes sense. So anyway, just to kind of bring it home and to encourage others who maybe are dealing with a kid, an angry kid who they have butt heads with, and it's just making your year miserable, and you didn't get into teaching for this reason, right? So I wanted to share this with you. So you fast forward. This wasn't much time. We did the Morrissey Award. We had that exchange where I let him come in 10 minutes and act like he got in trouble. 2 weeks later, in the middle of my planning period, all of a sudden Manuel just slams the door open and huffs and walks into my room. And he walks in, he's like, hey man, I'm just so mad, this teacher she made me mad, she should have known. I called her a dumb B. I called her a dumb B to her face, and she wouldn't get the hint. She kept trying to talk to me, trying to make me do English homework. And I said, I'm not doing that today, so I called her a dumb B, and I just walked out. That's just what I did. That's how he talked. And I was like, okay. And so he's just venting to me for a while, and his reasons for walking out didn't make sense, but I didn't judge him. I just kind of listened. And he goes, yeah, so it made me mad. So I decided I'm out of here. And I just came and I started thinking, I'll just go to Mr. Morris, because look, you were talking about that math today, and I didn't understand what you're talking about. So can you talk to me and teach me, show me what you were talking about? I didn't understand. And I was just blown away, because this kid didn't ever do his homework. This kid didn't want to do his homework typically. I didn't think he was listening or wanting to learn. And he definitely didn't make an effort to try to understand something on and beyond the classroom before this moment, right? So I'm sitting there and I was like, man, a couple things come to mind. One, this kid has some serious anger issues, because you look at him the wrong way and he's just going to go off, cuss you out, and leave. But two, how cool was it that the first thing he thought to do was come see me? And then three, he wanted to do homework. Like, well, this is unbelievable, right? So I immediately start thinking, if I start showing him how to do the homework, we start doing the math, a little bit of time goes by, maybe the door will open up for me to kind of give him some wisdom and give him some thoughts about how to handle and make decisions better. So we start doing the math, and sure enough, about 5 minutes in, 6 minutes in, I'm like, hey, man, well, you know, maybe next time that teacher makes you a little bit angry, instead of calling her a dumb B, maybe, this has really helped me. Take some time and just do a short prayer. I was like, do you ever pray? He's like, oh, sometimes, and not much, but every once in a while I might do it at a church or something. I was like, you know, you need to ask God because He gives you the strength. Ask Him to give you the strength to just not call her that name. You don't have to do everything that she's telling you to do per se if you don't feel like it, but just see if he can give you the strength not to cuss her out to her face. Because what's happening is now you're in school suspension, you're going to miss 3 days of classes, and then you get in this cycle, and you really need God's help to help you do that. So we just talked. I kind of sowed that seed, and that was kind of that. But it was really cool. Like I realized I was becoming a safe place for kids who don't really have one, and therefore the anger kind of continues to exponentially grow and they get in trouble and it's just hard. It's like the cycle they can't get out of, which just makes them more angry, which makes the cycle continue. And so that was what my experience was in a variety of situations. But I wanted to share that with you guys in case that was encouragement to you. Feel free to maybe do your own award based on a breakthrough that your kid does do, but you got to lead the charge, you know. Listen carefully, pay attention. Maybe they're giving you a reason why they can't really do what you're asking them to do, and maybe their reason is valid, and maybe you need to take a step back so you can take several steps forward and handle the kid according to what that kid needs. It might not be what they deserve, but we have to do the loving thing, and that's what is the loving, the right thing. What does that kid need, and are you filling those kids' needs, even emotionally speaking, right? I mean, it was probably a year later. I ran into that kid in a parking lot somewhere in town, and he came rushing up to me, gave me a huge hug. My heart grew towards him, and he literally had this affection for me, and we stayed like that from that point forward. And I want that for more kids in this country. I want this for more teachers, frankly, in this country. If I can kind of go from the horrible excuse of a teacher I started out as to experiencing that in this profession, I know it's possible for anybody. And so how do you deal with an angry kid? This might not be the only way, but that could be a way that you could consider and maybe can encourage somebody. If you are a parent or you know someone in education, the odds are someone in your family or a close friend of yours is in there. Share this video with them and see if this can be maybe some wind in their sails. So you want to be a student of your students. If they're angry, that's something you can pick up on and start doing the loving thing by them. Maybe give them some slack when they really need a moment to cool down, and you don't have to be so, you know, fixated on doing things the way that you say to do them because you're on a power trip. I mean, that was the lesson I had to learn. But on and beyond that, be prepared when you handle kids that way. It will make you a safe place. It will make you a safe place for them. And then while maybe 10 other teachers can't handle them, they don't have the patience, it just never turns into anything fruitful. You can be the person that somehow can get a hold of them because they recognize that you gave them that space and you honored them in that way, and it's going to come back to you tenfold. It really is. I've walked this out and seen it, and it's not because of Chris Morris and how great. It's really God and how great He is and His ways. And when you learn to handle people His way, to love people, to notice them, to study them, it really changes the game. It changes the entire game. So, guys, I hope this is encouraging you guys. In the meantime, you can check out my website. It's in the description if you ever want to connect or if you have kids who need some help with math. I do that online and stream. And anyway, we're still growing and exploring this channel, but I want to add value to people who are trying to reach kids. It can work for parents. It can work for pastors who have youth groups. It can work for anybody working with kids. You know it. It's a messy business, but it's definitely a worth it business. And we have to do what we have to do by kids and reach them, including the angry ones, because they're hurting and hurting people hurt people. It's not about you. They're not really mad at you at the end of the day. You have to reach them, and we have to figure out ways to do that. Give them grace. So, anyway, love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.